So when I'm done on a stage, I'm not hoping I get business from the audience. I know I'm getting business from the audience because I know how to work this into my keynote, into the call to action at the end, to where you go, I can't wait to get more from this guy. And you do it properly. I'm asking the right questions. You'll then tell me, yeah, I have more stuff for you. And then I get more bookings and a business builds.
Welcome back to the Nichols and Dime Show. I'm your host, Chris Nichols. Today, our guest is Anthony Trucks. Anthony is a prolific motivational speaker and transformational identity shift coach. He has a public speaking coaching program called Speak to Freedom and a personal development brand called Dark Work, which is all about how the work you do in the dark when you're not being watched is really what counts and gets you over that edge. We spend a good amount of this conversation talking about how to get over the fear and to improve at public speaking. We talk about different strategies and connecting with your audience of all different types. And then we get into his personal story of growing up as a foster kid, his football career into the NFL, and leaving the NFL to pursue entrepreneurship and all the trials and tribulations he went through to then start his business as a speaking and personal development coach. We also cover other entrepreneurial tactics and strategies, brand building approaches, and we cover some valuable takeaways that you can immediately apply to your business that you're working on or to your career. Please subscribe to the Nichols and Dime Show on YouTube, follow on Apple and Spotify. And now please enjoy my conversation with Anthony Trucks. Anthony Trucks, thanks so much for having me.
Thanks for coming, man. I'm looking forward to the conversation.
Me too.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know, I want to start off with something that I think will be valuable to the audience. It'll be valuable for me, just for my curiosity. And then I want to get into your background more and then talk about your business and all your different offerings.
Yeah.
But one thing that I was wondering, just top of mind, how would you answer this? How do you get over the fear of public speaking? Because I remember seeing a stat a long time ago, and I think it's the number one most feared thing. Number two is dying.
Yeah. I think you talk about something you intimately know, so you know nobody can challenge you. I don't think the fear is actually talking. It's the judgment from those who may watch you and be like, you suck. That's what it is. Because no human doesn't like doing something people celebrate them for. That I know of. Like if people go, great job, you're like, I don't want to do it again. It's weird, right?
Yeah.
So the idea is if you have something you talk about, for example, my mother-in-law's same kind of thing like you're talking about. She's like, she's retired now. She's like, she was asked at one point to start giving presentations on what she does, which was a grammatical specialist for like emails going out between the company and outside sources. And so she would check the emails, make sure it's good, then forward it out and then go out. And they asked her at one point to go and talk. And she's like, I can't do it. And I go, why? And asking me questions, I'm a speaker. She goes, well, I don't know if I can. I go, Patty, if they asked you to give the recipe for lumpias in front of a room of 70, she's like, I do it in front of 700. I don't want to make lumpias. I go, right? So no one can challenge you on it, right? So how do we get you to the level of confidence in the thing that we're asking you to speak about? If you have it, you do. If you don't, you don't. It's not the talking. It's usually, do I have this sense of pure confidence around it? Now, this is not a broad stroke for everybody. There are some people that go, I know it amazingly. I still don't want to talk to people. And that's okay. If you need to get over that, you just start small. The cool thing nowadays with video is you can just record yourself and post. That puts you in front of people. If it's other humans, you can do the thing where like you picture them naked, which I've never done that before. Yeah. Maybe it works. I don't know. But I think if you talk to people that you know respect you and give you like a thumbs up from the audience, like it's going to be much easier and smoother. And then once you're in, if you just get in to the flow of it, you stop thinking about the rest of the things that make you apprehensive. It's all the culmination of what could, and your brain's spinning up, and then you just go, and it's like it all drowns out, and then you just go into flow. Like for me now, like when the speech starts, I go in, and they're usually like around 40, 45 minutes. I wake up to the fact that I've been talking for 45 minutes. Does that make sense? Like just yesterday I had a speech. I'm doing my thing, and then we get to the backside of like the time, and like I wake up, I say wake up, but like my brain becomes aware that I've been presenting for 45 minutes. I just go into a zone. And then I'm like, oh yeah, I've been doing this for like, let's close this thing out strong, and then I finish it off. Yeah. But once you've been doing it and you get into the flow of it, the flow takes over.
Okay, so it sounds like, I mean, the basic things you would usually hear with getting better at anything, working your way up in a reasonable way, starting small, adding a little bit more to it, the repetition, and then it becomes second nature.
Yeah, just do it. I mean, you got to do it a lot. The hard thing for many people is to go through the journey of getting to a point of joy with something. And what it looks like for many is you try something and it's like a 10 of 10 of pain. I suck at this. I'm not good. I feel the pain emotionally. I suck at this. And then what happens is once you move from that moment, you can look back and do one of two things. You can go, you know what? I learned something. where you go, I don't want to do this ever again. And you avoid what could have been learned. Those who get better are the ones that go, okay, I tried it, it sucked, but I learned this little thing. Let me go try it again. And then people outside will go, what are you, masochistic? Don't do it again. You suck at this thing. But you go and try it again, you try it again. You come out, 9.5 of pain. See, told you, you still suck at it, but it's only 9.5, and I got a little bit better. You do that again and again. It may go 9.5, 9, 8, 8.5, and it builds and it goes down. And at a certain point, this thing that you were doing that was so like scary and hard, like it's a 0 of pain. But at 0, it's not just painless. Like I can do it, no big deal. There's actual joy behind it. Like you love doing this thing that at one point was super hard to do. And that journey is the one that it needs to be matched to everything we do in life, to speaking, to parenting, to a relationship, right? There's all these aspects that we lean into and go, gosh, this is just so uncomfortable, and that we avoid it and we leave it well before we get to the point of joy. But when you do get there, like it's a whole different feeling. Like the amount of joy is more fulfilling than the I guess the feeling you'd have of depletion from like not doing well. So it's like I can go, okay, 10 of 10 sucks and it hurts, but it is well below the level and opposition of how much joy there is when you've accomplished this thing. You feel amazing. You don't mind doing it. So at one point I didn't like speaking. I was like, I don't want to go out in front of people and talk, right? And it was like I bombed some stages. Like you feel bad. Like you're like, God, they paid me for this, or I did it for free. I feel I don't want to do this again. But now I'm like, put me out there, man. Like, let's go. Like I'm a blast doing this because I love to do it. But it's because of both the skill I know I have, but the fulfillment from doing the hard work. Because the things that are the hardest for us give us the most pride. Like you talked about doing CrossFit, right? I'm sure you tell people about the CrossFit you do, right? Yeah. It's usually because it's a hard thing. Yeah. There's pride behind what I got that whole Murph done, right? And so I didn't do it personally. But like it's so hard, but you do share it because it's awesome. And it's because but women, they talk about childbirth all the time because it's very hard. And so for all of us, the joy comes from doing that hard thing, that journey, and then eventually feeling amazing for having done it.
Yeah. Yeah. You mentioned in there that you once weren't good at it. That was going to be my next question was, would you describe yourself as somebody who was born with this gift?
No.
Not at all.
Well, we could all talk, right? But speaking is different because speaking requires a couple things. One, I have to be able to speak extemporaneously, meaning off the cuff like we're doing now, and just talk. It's different when you're giving a speech because there's certain things that must be covered, but you can't miss them. You gotta tie, this to that. And so it's a lot that goes into that. And then you have to also learn how to speak without ums and ahs, how to not fill space and how to, guide the conversation. There's a lot that goes into that. So no one's naturally a proficient public speaker. And there's always an under like line of thought going on. Like, so there's me talking to you and you have the same thing of we're talking, but there's an underlying concept or underlying thought happening at the exact same time. You're thinking of what am I listening to? What question should I ask next? And it's a constant flow. When I'm on stage, I am talking to people, but there's a constant underlying feeling of like, are they getting this? Do they like it? Do they nod to it? Should I have them raise their hand? Are they engaged? Why is she nodding off? And so I'm talking, but I'm also feeling the exact same thing. So as a speaker, I got to be able to pay attention to that. I got to be able to speak without ums and ahs, where I can speak, and then also be able to put thought together in real time and teach from it without having let me up and stumbling over words. And so that's something you have to practice.
On that, so how do you read thousands of people at once versus a one-on-one conversation like this? And you make a good point. I do feel, for me personally, doing this podcast has helped me in just public speaking in general. Yeah. And I haven't actually gone and given a speech recently in front of a bunch of people, but I do feel like I could pull it off much better just from putting myself out there in this way, putting my voice out there, right? Not saying that it directly translates. I'm just saying I feel like it would. Yeah. Right?
Yeah.
And it's like you mentioned, the ums, the ahs. I'm much more aware of that. I've listened to myself a lot, seen myself on camera. Yeah. And so I know what my weird things are, and I've adjusted those as I've improved. But just back to that question, what is your strategy to step on stage? You have thousands of people in the crowd.
I feel them all.
Yeah. Maybe you can barely see them.
Oh, I've had that.
Yeah.
I've had where I can see nobody. The lights get so bright, like literally you can't see a face. I have given speeches for 20,000 people virtually, and it was no one in the room. And there's no Zoom, there's no video, it's just me. And I'm talking to air for an hour. It's so, I'm telling you, dude, I've had it all. I think about it, it's wild to do it that way. When I'm in a room with people and I can see them, there's a couple things like, when someone's paying attention, they're leaned in, they're paying attention, and some people are kind of tucked back, or when you catch their eye and they look away. And so like if they don't want to listen to, they don't want to talk to, it's kind of like, oh, they're not connected to me, right? So there's little things you can kind of gauge as you're up there. The entire room, though, when you got a room of like 10,000, you got to gauge the front row. The front row will tell you what's going on, how they're feeling, is the story landing, like if they're like nodding their head with you, if they raise their hand, that's who you can see, and you got to engage with this group. But also, when you want to engage with someone in the back of a room, you engage with a person in the front. So if you ever, and it's hard to think about it because we don't usually catch this when it's going on, but if you've ever been to a speech and you're watching somebody, if they get really close to the edge of the stage and they lean down and they go talk to somebody, like they're looking at one person, they're looking at their eyes, you have this feeling of connection.
Even if you're in the back of the room.
Yeah, because you see that they're talking to somebody and you're part of that group they're talking to, you know what I mean? But it's not like they're calling Bob out, personally.
Yeah.
And so if I want to really connect with a room, I got to get to one person and look at them. And so I'm looking at them and talk to that human. And that person in the audience also has a feeling like it's called a mirror neuron in your brain. There's a lot of ways it shows up. But one of them is like if I stub my toe, you'd be like, ooh, because you can mirror what it may feel like. So when I'm watching you look at somebody, I'm mirroring a similar connection. And so I feel what you're saying to me. I get the same goosebumps of what you say. And so that's how I connect with a larger room when I just have a couple people there in front of me, per se.
I never thought of that, but it's so true. And comedians do this super well. Right? I was just at an Andrew Schultz show a few weeks ago.
Yeah. Was he good? I want to go.
Yeah, he's hilarious.
Yeah.
But, he steps to the edge and he leans over and it does get your attention. It makes you say, okay, what's going to go on here? He's really talking to someone one-on-one.
Yep.
And, of course, they're completely on their edge.
And uncomfortable, and you feel it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So did you ever call anyone out? Is that a part of a strategy? If you find that someone might not be getting it or paying attention?
It depends on the group. You never want to have somebody feel bad like that. I'll do it when I'm talking to kids and the kids aren't paying attention. I'm like, hey, bro, I'm talking to you, right? Like, you're part of this group, right? Like, so, because what happens is in those settings with like the kids or the high school kids, it's usually the kid that gets the most attention. Like, he's a good leader, but leading everybody the wrong direction. So if I can snatch that kid up, everybody else is like, oh, he got Nichols. Like, okay, I got to pay attention now. So it's just in that manner. But never like an adult group. There's never like, professionals, I'm going to like call them out because you never know who you're talking to. It could be like the head of something, some marketing or whatever. It's like, oh, I just pissed that guy off.
Yeah.
So I don't do that. And most of the time in those rooms, the goal isn't to personally call somebody out, but you call out a person that might be acting this way or doing this way or saying something like this. So I never call anybody's specific name. So it's like I may say something along the lines of like, and the person you guys may have in your company that always comes in late and always do it, like you may say it in some manner that they go, oh, this person's talking to me. But I'll get those details before an event. So I'll know what collectively the group is doing or what they're not doing. So I can call to that and I go, look, we don't want to be the kind of person that, and you start listening to things you had them tell you that are problems. And so they're hearing a guy on stage and they're probably going like, oh, damn, that's me. But I'm not calling them out specifically.
I feel like that's especially related to the nature of environments you're speaking in, right? You do a lot of corporate events, right? Like what other type of environments have you spoken in other than?
All of them, man.
Yeah.
Should have been elementary schools, middle schools. I've been at boot camps on the grass after they got done working out.
Oh, really?
Associations, organizations. Yeah, man, everything. I can't think of a group that I've been to Russia and spoke. There's a lot, dude. And they didn't speak English. There's a lot that goes on. Yeah, I've done this for a while now that I kind of reflect upon it. Yeah. But all group. I'm talking the handlebar mustache line guys, construction workers that don't care. It's a variety of human beings I interact with, and every one of them takes a different way to connect, and also a different way to know you're even connecting. Because you may talk to a group that has their arms crossed. And they don't do anything. They may nod a little bit, but like they stare at you and they don't even give expression. And then like you think like they hated it, and you go afterwards. They go, "Oh, I loved it. Thank you so much. It was an amazing talk." What are you talking about? I didn't know when I was up there you enjoyed it. I thought I was trying to get done because I seemed like I was bothering you. Oh no, it was great. Like I enjoyed it. So you really have to understand who you're talking to. Like so when I go to lawyers, accountants, I have to know in advance and think about they're not going to respond the same way they would at like a personal development event where everybody's, they're ramped up, they're ready to rock and roll, they're clapping, high five and dancing. These people are used to sitting in cubicles, quiet in suits. They're not really going to emotionally express in front of a room. And so there's times where like I'm in those rooms at certain events. Hey, raise your hand if you, and the whole room's up and they're, then I go, hey, raise your hand if you've had this. And I'm the only one with my hand up. and no one else will do it, you know? And I go, hey, you guys speak English, right? Raise your hand. Oh, you know, so little things that get them kind of nudged, but it doesn't mean they don't like it. It's just that they're absorbing it a different way. You got to kind of know that.
Right. Yeah. And do you have some sort of preparation practice based off who you're going to be speaking to study what type of behavior you might expect out of them?
No, not at this point. Now I kind of got a grasp of it, you know? I maybe years ago I should have, but I think about what their day-to-day is in a professional setting. That's what I'm probably going to get. So when their day-to-day is quiet, secluded, tucked away, I'm usually going to get that kind of energy. It's not the same, you know, as if they're going to a place, like maybe they're going to go to an event and they're out of their setting of work. They're here selectively because they're part of an association or group. Like, it's a different kind of feel. But yeah, there's not really a way that I study certain humans. Only thing I think about is what's their day-to-day activity like? And if they're coming for work and their typical work is like that quiet, secluded, tucked away, buttoned up, that's usually how I'm going to get them, because they're going to energetically be in that space when they arrive.
That makes sense. How many speeches total would you say you've done in your career?
That's a great question. It's got to be close to 1,000 now.
Wow.
It's a lot. Because when I talk about speeches, I'm talking about virtual stuff. I've done a lot on stage. We do about 24 plus per year. And I've been doing this for a decade now, more than a decade. So yeah, since like 2009.
Man.
So we've done a lot. Yeah, it's got to be close to 1,000. A lot.
That's
a lot
incredible.
Of free ones, a lot of schools, a lot of virtual stuff.
Yeah, especially in the 2020 period, those 2
years.
years.
It was all virtual. Just that's why I built the whole studio, was so I could do virtual stuff. It's a lot of it. So it's, so with just like the last decade, call it 10 years at, 24 to 30 a year, we're already at 300 plus. It's not taking into account the ones that have and that's like paid ones. That's not taking into account the free stuff I've done, not taking into account virtual stuff I've done. Yeah, man. It's a lot. And I do a bunch of like webinars. So I don't know if I would call that a speech, but it's very similar, like in presenting, right? Because you're still up and talking and presenting and feeling the group back and forth. So a lot of those kind of things. So it's been a good chunk, man.
Yeah, that's amazing. I want to get to know where you come from. So your childhood, you were a foster kid, right?
100%.
Until, was it age 14?
I was adopted at 14, yeah.
What do you remember from that time in your life? What did you make of the world and what your situation was?
I remember too much from that time, man. That's a problem. I don't know if it's a problem. I don't like that it happened, but I appreciate it. That's why there's a painting on the wall that says "Smooth seas never made skilled sailors." For me, that's really where it's born of my life was difficult, but it taught me how to navigate life differently. So now in my life, as a grown man, when things happen, other people who haven't had the rough seas, they struggle. They fall apart. It's the first time they've been exposed to this emotion or experience. Whereas for me, it's like, oh, this is just Wednesday morning.
Right.
And it's not that I'm better. I've just had that situation happen earlier so I could understand how to navigate it properly so I can get to smoother seas. And so, my childhood was riddled with a bunch of crazy, man. Just, weird stuff with bad foster parents that just were just heinous humans, and not feeling like I mattered, not knowing if I fit in somewhere, being really smart, but also at the same time really bad. So like I would be able to access like these, GATE programs and stuff, which was like these for smart kids, but I wasn't allowed to go because I was like a risk of bugging everybody, They couldn't get the stuff done. Had a weird dynamic there. And then, just trying to find a sense of self. I think when you're in that environment, you don't really have a sense of ownership of yourself because you're getting moved around. Nothing that I want matters. So you don't get this like the beauty of choice isn't something I get to experience. And so just a weird environment of life to live in, to be quite honest. I didn't enjoy it. But at the same time, when I look back on it, I'm not who I am now without that. And I can tell when I look at my kids, because I got good kids. They're nice people, but they are not the gritty people that I am. There's a different sense of, and it happens. I think the whole nature versus nurture. The more I look at life, I believe a lot of it is just it's nurture. It's what you go through. Because I think if I grew up in a different environment, I'm a different kid. Because my external environment creates a different sense of self and grit. And so I think there's ways to develop it, but I was put in a situation where I was forced to. Now, there are a lot of kids. If you literally look at any prison in America, 75% of the inmates are former foster kids like me. Statistically, I should not be doing what I'm doing. So I know that I'm not a normal person in that sense. I know I have a difference, and I don't know exactly what the thing was that made me different, but I know I didn't go down the path of being a criminal and being crazy and just using it as a really good excuse to do poorly. I use it as a great excuse to do amazing. And so that's kind of how I've just navigated things differently. But yeah, childhood was, It was tough, man. It was heavy. Only black kid in all white, very poor family, no athletes, only athlete. Tried to find a way to be a good athlete. Mom got diagnosed with MS, so she was, sick, and the family would focus on mom. Obviously, they needed to. We weren't an academic family either, so I was the only kid, and I am, of all 6 of us to graduate from high school with a diploma, not have to do a GED or continuation.
Wow.
And so it was a very interesting dynamic of my life, being like different in the family, but also being different in the family. So like I was different as like the black kid. I'm already different there, but then also was different from them in a sense of like how it functioned. And so it's just, I don't know how I am, if that makes sense.
Yeah. It's interesting. That would have been my question, but you answer, you don't know how you turned out that way.
My wife and I contemplate, like, what did you do different? I don't know. You know what? If I go back to all the things, the only thing I can think of is I was able to build a sense of my identity through giving to something, which happened to be football.
Right.
And I think that's the only giving, saving grace for me was I found something that I wanted to give my all to. And in giving my all to that, I built who I wanted to be. I think that's the thing most people are lacking. They go, I don't feel confident. I'm not having success. I feel. I go, great. But actions precede feelings. And so what I'm noticing when I talk to people now is I go, well, if you feel that way, it's because the actions that preceded that were not at a level above where they needed to be. So your reflection upon the experience or whatever took place is not that great, didn't do too well. So that's all you have is proof of who you are. That's your identity now. And I go, if you want to elevate it, you have to work at something past a point of pain, of anguish, of difficulty, without logically talking yourself into doing it. Just do it. You just shut down the conversation in your head and you just keep moving. And then what happens is now you have these actions that create a different feeling, a sense of confidence, of pride, self-esteem, proof of who you are, which is why my brand of dark work is about the work you do in the dark that allows you to win in the light. And the mentality is I've done too much work in the dark to lose in the light. And so when this becomes part of how you look at yourself, I think that's what I did at 15. I leaned in, I did everything I could to be great at football, and it built a different sense of who I was. And I just kept borrowing that to apply to the next one and just kept, gambling my way up, if you call it that.
So how'd you get into football then? Especially in the family that you were adopted into wasn't
nobody did
athletic,
anything. Yeah. Well, I had classmates that all played football. They played at Antioch Youth Football. It was AYF or something. And they all used to come on Friday with the jerseys. And I was like, gosh, I want to do that. And I couldn't play. At the same time, when I wasn't adopted, my biological mom had control. It was called parental rights over what I could and couldn't do. She wouldn't allow me to play football. And so when I finally got adopted, I could play, but we were really poor. I had a paper route, though. So at 12, I had a paper route. I stacked money and bought some things. And at one point, I go, I want to play football. My mom goes, we can't afford it, like any of it. So I had to buy my own cleats. All I could afford was the ones on clearance at Big Five, and they were 2 sizes too big. So I had to cut toilet paper and wrap it in Scotch tape to put it in the shoes so my feet would fit properly.
No way.
I swear to you. Like, they're Nike Sharks, bro. Yeah, I remember these.
What position were you?
I was like D-line because I was horrible and wide receiver. I didn't know anything. I was all my teammates, they're 14. They've been playing for 5-6 years. My first year playing. So I was not good at all. And I had to pay.
Late middle school or early high school?
Last year of middle school.
Okay.
Yeah, so I paid for the football that year. I paid for I paid for everything because that's the only money we had was the money that I was making my paper route. And I went in and I was just horrible at the game. I was good at recess, but when I put a helmet and shoulder pads on, I was just a loopy-doop. I didn't know what I was doing. I was ever used to hitting people or getting hit or tackling people. It was wild. But I was so late to the game. And even in freshman year, I was pretty bad too. It was between freshman and sophomore year that I really went hard on just training myself that allowed me to come back and just be a different kind of dog.
What motivated you? Was it just you were tired of not being good?
2 girls.
Okay.
It wasn't like you think, though. I don't know these girls. I was in a class, Mr. Howell's English class, and I checked out of school. I was like, I'm bad at football. My mom was diagnosed with MS. So like, I'm going off to be a statistic. Like I'm really heading down that path. These 2 girls were sitting next to me. And you got to think in my head at this time, I'm a foster kid. I'm not supposed to have much in life. Like it's not my lot to have, good things happen. I've never had money, never had praise and appreciation. I'm just this kid that even my mom didn't want me. And these 2 girls were talking and they had no idea I was listening because I was like half asleep at this little jacket over my head. And then one girl goes, well, the reason I'm so bad is because I'm in foster care. And it really, if you hear it, it's like not a big deal. But to me, it was like, oh my gosh, that's how I sound. That's what I'm telling myself. Like this thing I had no control over was a thing that's driving my decisions for my life. Like I feel it now, remembering how she said it. it really shook me the entire day. I remember wandering around like the whole freshman year, like that's a crappy way to feel. And then I went home and I made a commitment. I was like, I'm gonna be great. Like, I'm gonna be great in spite. It wasn't, I'm gonna be great, like, for foster. I was like, I'm gonna be great for a human. And so that was my choice. And I leaned in and did things that didn't feel like my current identity. It wasn't within my wheelhouse. Like you said, how'd you do? And I just did it against myself and other people making fun of me. But I knew that was the path to get where I wanted to go. And I don't know who's listening, but that's always going to be the thing we have to do, right? I want this thing. I know I'm being told what it takes to get this thing, but the things it takes, I don't do those things. Well, no crap, you don't do them. That's why you don't have what you want. And the issue is we battle our identity more than we battle the actions. The actions are things we can all physically do. But if you don't identify with those, you don't do them. So you're battling yourself. And it's interesting as you hear people say you have to give your old self for your new self. That's what giving your old self up looks like. Mm-hmm. It looks like going, I don't care how I currently identify. I want to identify as a guy that can lift weights and run routes and catch footballs. That guy does these things so he can feel that way. So I do the things, but it's not who you are. Yeah, I know it's not. Trucks, you suck. Why are you doing that? It's what I got to do. And like, I had teammates make fun of me. Family go, what are you doing? We don't do this, And myself, I'm like, I know I don't. I'm a skinny little kid. I don't do this stuff. But I did it. And then two things happened. When I mentioned that idea of the work in the dark to shine in the light, the shine is twofold. The shine is on one side, it's a sense of skill set that allows me to shine. Catch footballs, you shine. Make tackles, you shine, right? You get the gig, you get the podcast, you post it, you shine. You see the outcome of the achievement. What you don't usually pay attention to is the upgrade in the human's personality. What the other part of the shine is there's people, we've all watched them, that like years ago they were nerds. Like look at Jeff Bezos. The guy used to be just dork, right? And then what did he do? He built this beautiful thing of a company, Amazon. Now when you see him, dude looks like he's, Lex Luthor, like his swag to him, confidence. It's because of what he built. The thing that he accomplished, the shine is also the shine that flows out of him in confidence, swag, self-esteem. And while you don't have to do $1 billion company to have that swag, if you just happen to get a better body because you've worked at a hard workouts, you shine, not just physically what you see, but also personality improves. You have a different glow about yourself, different way I live in the Bay Area. There's a bunch of guys that the tech guys, that like
I'm familiar.
The tech bros, the tech bros. You're like, this dude was a nerd in high school and he couldn't even get his clothes to match. Now homeboy's rocking all this fashion. Yeah. What is it? He did something. He accomplished. His shine is not just what he accomplished though. The shine oozes out of his soul. And so when I did that in high school in football, I was like, I was a faster, stronger, better player, but I had a different sense of swag because of what work I did that I knew I did. It was a dog in me that I fed every single day. So I was ready to fight whenever it needed to. And that's how I showed up.
Wow. So when you talk about those two girls who you overheard, would it be safe to say that that's when you realized how bad this perhaps victim mentality sounded?
Oh, no. There was nothing like, I mean, we can frame it in the language of it like now, but that's not what I was thinking of back then. That wasn't a processed thought. It was like, oh, I hate how that sounds. I was 15, dude, so
yeah,
as processing as a 15-year-old can give you, it's what I was doing. But I hated how I felt at the thought of it. So if we language it now, 100% is what it was. It was this thought of like, I didn't like the victim mentality. I didn't like that this was what was controlling my life. But I could not have used those words back then.
I see. Yeah, that makes sense. So obviously you improved a lot in football throughout high school. You turned it on and you switched one off within you to the point where you went and played at Oregon.
Yeah.
And how was your time at Oregon playing football, going to school?
It was hard.
Yeah.
It's a whole new progression of life. We all enter new levels. Every single success provides us with a whole new set of problems. And it's the beauty of life. We want it to be just, when I get here, there's no here. Because when you get there's more problems that come with it. Like, I don't care what anybody thinks. The moment you've succeeded at something, you've now just opened a box of more problems to flow onto you. And it's not that it's a bad thing, because to be honest, my buddy calls it Cadillac problems. Like, yeah, they're problems, but I got the shocks to absorb the pain. I'm fine. I'm still riding smooth with the problems, right? But when I got to Oregon, I'd never been away from the family. I was, not, see, when I was in high school, like I went from sucking, but I was the guy, right? You got to go to this place and like, not only away from friends and family, like you're not the guy.
Yeah.
No one cares who you are. It's hot. The coaches are making fun of you and driving you to the ground. There's initiation rituals. Like it's wild. You are bathed in discomfort. It's the only way I can explain it. And there's guys that like, I'm out of here. I have one guy, we got done with camp, one practice at it was 10 o'clock. By the next morning at 8 o'clock, we all woke up. He had driven himself back to LA.
Wow.
He's like, I'm done with this. And shot back. He was home. When he woke up, he drove. He overnight drove like 10 hours, got back to LA. It was crazy. and the crazy thing though is like, I get it. I wouldn't do that, but I get it. And so what college was like, yeah, you have to go through that. But once you can embrace the suck, we call it, and lean in, now you get the opportunity to have a bunch more cool experiences take place. The problems that I had weren't the same as when I first got there. The problems are like, can I maintain getting, this amount of sacks and tackles and the accolades and the pressure of succeeding and being right? It's a different set of problems, but a better set of problems. But it was tough because I had to go through like fighting to earn a job. It's different from nowadays. Like if I go to a school and I'm not playing, I can transfer somewhere, but they're going to play me now. And those kids are going to miss out on the tangibles life needs them to have when they get older. Because if you get a job and all of a sudden you ain't doing well, you can't just change jobs, bro. Like you have to stay there and figure it out. And so now that muscle doesn't exist in this guy. He's going to falter. You're going to see a lot of job changes from athletes, I think, in the job, the workplace in about a good 6 to 10 years. It's going to be an interesting way that these guys bounce around because they're not put under the gun the way they used to, in the sense of like you have to figure this out and fight through it. Now they can go, I don't like the coach, doesn't like me, I'm out of here. No, he doesn't not like you. He's telling you got to get better so you can get the job you want. Get better, not get out of here. And so that kind of dance is really interesting for me to watch. And for me, I didn't have the opportunity. I had to fight through, and I did. My true sophomore year, I beat a fifth-year senior out for the job. I had to just fight and take it. I had to figure out how to level up. I also met my dad in college. Didn't know who he was before that.
Wow.
Had a son my sophomore year of college who he now goes to the University of Oregon where he was born. And then I married married my fiance at the time. Had a whole new life. I went there as like an 18-year-old boy. I left married with a kid.
Wow.
I was a man when I left. It's a very different world.
Yeah.
But college was a necessary, for me, a necessary step to go through because of the difficulty. Also had an assistant coach who was just, at the time I thought he was evil. At this moment now, he was like a godsend. And it's mostly because I realized that as a father now, I realize how hard it is to not only set a standard, but then hold somebody to it. You saw my son walking out earlier, like me and him butt heads often because he wants to play football. I know the standard of what's required for the goal that he has for himself, that he stated, not me. I don't care what he chooses to do as long as he's happy. And so the problem we have is we butt heads because I have to keep showing him when he's falling short of the standard of his goal. And that causes tension. And it feels like a lack of love. And it feels like I'm just messing with him, right? I go, I'm not. I'm pointing out for you a thing you need to see for what you want to have. Now, when I was in college, my coach did the same. You want to start here? Here's what it takes. Here's a standard, not just on the field, but also off the field. So it was uncomfortable all the time. And when I battled it, it was harder. So I was making it harder because I wouldn't buy in and give what he was asking me to give. I wanted to give what I wanted to give and have what I wanted to have. It doesn't work that way. And so I had to give what was necessary to have what I wanted. And then when I finally did that, I got it. And then beyond that, when I got to the real world, football's done after the NFL, and I come home, I have built an amazing business, but it's not because of football. It's because of what the people that were around me in football taught me. If I want to have a great business, I can't give what I want to give what I want to get.
Yeah.
I have to give what's required to have what I want. And there's nobody else poking me to do it. Just the world is. I'm not making money maybe. People are, not want to work with me. I'm losing clients, whatever that is. That's the world saying, hey, you're falling short of the standard for this. And me going, all right, let me level up, as opposed to like everybody sucks, right? And so that's kind of where I think for me, football, yes, the college realm, like it helped me grow as a human being, but also to become a man capable of being successful in this world.
So that had a big impact. I mean, I want to make the connection from your time at Oregon playing football. You just gave a lot of the impact that had on you, that experience had. And then the few years you were in the NFL.
Yeah.
And then, the gym business after that. I just want to connect that together.
All of them, yeah. It's a lot there, dude.
I know it's a lot. I know.
NFL sucks too, in a good way. NFL's cutthroat, bro. So they say NFL stands for not for long. It's a facetious kind of joke, right? But the truth is, it's golly, the environment of it is incredibly uncomfortable all the time. Like, you have to get comfortable being uncomfortable to survive. That's why when you meet most of those guys, there's a screw loose there. You kind of have to. You must disassociate with normalcy and with anybody else's level of what is required, because the game is the game. There's a level you have to function. You have to. There can't be an ounce of fear. There can't be an ounce of like questioning your abilities. The moment that little tear in the paper is there, it rips loose because someone's going to tear it open for you. If I go on a football field and you're crossing me and I see a little bit of a chink in the armor, I'm trying to demolish it to make myself look good so I can keep this job and get paid well. And it's a natural breeding ground for just the most aggressive emotional expression repetitively for months and then years, right? I don't know how, like, you're jiu-jitsu, right?
Right.
You know the moments you get like those, it's like a pure competition. The rest of the world is melted away. It's you and this person, and it's like you got to find that different level, right, to get this next move, whatever it is. It's that, but it's every single play, practice after practice after practice. You got to muster it up. There's no like our practice and like, let's practice some drills. It's like, no, go, you versus him one-on-one. We're doing team. Let's do a team kickoff. And it's nonstop. And they'll tell you every day, like, if you don't figure this out, you have no job.
Yeah.
You don't get this done, we're bringing somebody else who can get it done in. And so it's just this tension of I must perform under negative pressure, right? And it's across the board. And so if you're always uncomfortable, you're not going to perform. So you have to figure out, how do I have that be what's going on? But I find it's a screw loose. Like, you got to be a little crazy. And so the NFL, it teaches you this environment. Also, like, how teams work and navigating different personalities, some that like have your position that don't want to see you succeed because then they won't. So that dance, or like I'd have buddies, actual buddies, right? We go hang out, get food, get meals, but in practice, I am trying to ruin your soul. Every single play I can go against you. Yeah. You understand that, and I understand that. And we can disconnect what happens after practice to now. I might get in a fight with you in practice, but afterwards, like, hey, want to get a burger? Let's go get a burger. That's weird. Like, it's not a normal thing, dude. Yeah. So those things helped me. And then when I got done with the game, I went into the real world. And while I didn't have the actual skill sets or knowledge base necessary to succeed at that game of, we'll call it the business game, I had the intangibles. And when I was able to merge the intangibles with an actual strategy for the business, it was game over. Like, I have not had a boss for the last, since 2008. So we're going on 16 years now ish.
Yeah.
I don't. Yeah. The thought of having to ask someone for 2 weeks off, like, it throws me. I'm just built differently in that, because I was like, I don't want a boss anymore. I've had people guiding my life for too long. But the way that I'm successful in this entrepreneurial journey is because I know what it's like to navigate the emotions of difficulty, of feeling like I'm losing, feeling like I'm winning, but that can't fuel the way my actions take place, right? So to be honest, we could be sitting here having a great conversation. You could have no idea right now if I was battling something incredibly difficult. I know how to put that to the side for our time together. Thankfully, I'm not. I got a beautiful life, right?
Good. Okay.
But there are times when I've had to show up and like every part of me wants to cancel everything. But you would have no idea that I'm not in the most joyous mood. And I got this thought from thinking about like professional actors. People get paid the most in the world. They're professional actors or A-listers, right? And what we picture is we see them living their life fluid. It's great, right? I go, no, it's not what their life's like. And I don't know 100%, but from what I gather, I try to pay attention between the lines.
Yeah.
Imagine if you're like Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson.
Right.
You gotta show up to set and film Jumanji. You telling me that with everything that man has going on between tequila and Zoa and all these, you tell me he never gets a call that's like, something's going to cost us millions. He never gets it? No, he gets it for sure. And then he has to go on set and go, let's have some fun.
Yeah.
He has to leave that there and show up here. Professionals have to do that. And so I've learned over the years, it doesn't mean I'm bottling the emotion up. I'm not bottling it. I'm just in control of it. I heard this thing, I heard it recently, like a month ago. And I've looked back on my life and go, man, I kind of did that. But now I live actively from this thought, which is a man is only as big as the smallest thing that can take him out of his zone. And so I go, if I'm going to be a strong, big man, right? Lead my family, lead my boys, be a great husband, like these little things, be a great mentor, a great coach, work with Amazons and PayPals and T-Mobile's big companies. These little things can't shake me. So if I get to a speech and you guys have an issue, I'm good.
Yeah.
Like, well, I don't have this. I'm not going to freak out because the microphone going out, it's a microphone going out. I'm so small that the microphone's going to throw everything off. Like I've had events where the power goes out and I'm just yelling up there, like having fun with it because you can, like most people be like, I don't know how'd you did that. Because that thing's not going to rattle me. I'm too big as a human in my head and how I'm being required to show up and being paid to show up to let that small thing take me off track. That all came from sports for me.
Wow. Okay. So one thing I like to really try to understand with all my guests, because this podcast is centered around the entrepreneur mindset, and everyone's got a different journey into that, of course. But I like to understand what was it about, or when did it click that hey, this is the type of life I'd want to live. I want to be an entrepreneur of some sort. And for you, I'm sure you were pretty focused on football, like high school, college. You obviously made it to the next level each time.
Yeah.
And it takes, being one of the very best in order to do that at each of those stages. So I'm sure, I'm thinking I'm going to be a professional football player, but
that's all I was going to do.
Yeah. Okay.
That's the only plan.
Yeah. So I'm sure that's like a lot of guys. I've known a lot of guys in your position. That's all they think about, right? It's either that or nothing. Yeah. But when did it click? Like, hey, I actually have so much potential for something else after football.
It didn't happen until after football.
Okay.
During football wasn't there. I had no space to think about post-football. I don't think you should. Like you should be setting things up, but someone else should be doing the thinking about that. Like you should have someone that you trust that's part of that decision-making process, spouse, friend, family, cousin, brother, you trust that can do the thinking for that. You can come in and, on that day, a couple hours, like absorb for a minute, make some decisions. Then you got to let that go because your job is to pay attention to your playbook, pay attention to what's going on in the coaching. That's the only way that money's coming in. If you disperse some of that attention, you disperse your abilities. I don't know anybody as successfully has done two of those things amazing that I know of, right? Even guys like LeBron have got amazing businesses. My guess is he's deep in the game. He's got a good rhythm for it now, but he's got people he trusts that run the show, right?
Sure.
And so I think there's that piece. When I got done, though, I was thrust into the world post-football. And it's funny, the word entrepreneur didn't really exist back in '08 like it does now.
Right.
Like I'm sure the word existed, yes. But it wasn't this like everybody's, I'm an entrepreneur because I sell hair. Like, no, you don't. Like,
I get what you mean.
You know what I mean? So we have this world that I think blossom into it. But I didn't have that thought when I started. My thought was, I don't want a boss. There's a book, it's right here somewhere. It's called Get Motivated by Tamara Lowe. I don't know where it's at on my little bookshelf here. But there's something that it goes into, and it's kind of cool because the concept is that you have stability and variety humans. My best friend, Jason's a police officer. He's a stability human. He needs to know where his paycheck comes each month. He needs to know that everything's settled and good. He just has to know. I'm a variety human. The thought of me knowing what I'm doing like next year makes my balls tickle. Like, I don't like that at all. I'm like, oh, all right. For him, it's the reverse. He's like, how do you not know what's coming in next month? I'm like, I don't, but I live well below my means, dude. So the idea is, for me, the way I function as a human, I've kind of learned that for me, I like the variety of it so I can handle the ups and downs, the lefts and rights without losing my stuff. And so when I got to the point of doing the gym business, that was where I became an entrepreneur, if you want to call it that. But all it was I wanted my own control. I wanted variety. I didn't want to have to ask somebody for time off. And I'm not saying that someone who does this, they're not less than, they're just different. My best friend, Jay, I respect this man, love him to death. He's just different. He needs stability. I respect that. I need variety. He respects that. So we're different and we even process problems differently. But at the end of the day, we both show up in our lives happy. So we come to our friendship happy. Everything moves smooth. And I think for me, that's where I look back and, when I started my entrepreneurial journey was like, I just don't want to have to ask anybody for anything ever again. I want to please my clients the way that I choose to put myself in a position to do so. But even I drive that container and how it's set up so you can access me, as opposed to like, hey, love, we can't go on that trip across the country right now because boss said I got to stay here for the next 3 weeks. I'm just not built that way.
Yeah. Did that click at some point from football? Like, because it's
it clicked a week after football.
A week after football.
So I got done. a week after I knew my career was over. As football, I got an injury, came home, was doing rehab, trying to get back in. I realized like I'm done. And so what happened was I was like, my degree's in kinesiology. Let me get my certification. Let me go work at a 24-hour fitness, 24-hour Nautilus, whatever they want to call it.
So at least you had that foresight.
I didn't have it until I got done though. Okay. Like when I was in college, my degree was I just finished my degree in kinesiology. I didn't know I was going to do with it 100%. And so I came home and I got a job at 24-hour fitness and I was there for a week because what happened was I realized I have a degree in this stuff. I got the certification, which was like, it was super easy for me. And I'm at 24-hour fitness with these guys. They just decided to work out one day and got a certification. Now they're trainers. There's a master trainer who's ahead of me. He's a good human though. Like his name's Joel, great guy, I like him. But I realized early in the conversation, the more I'm getting like to get to know Joel's teaching me the ropes and teaching me how this thing's working. I'm going through the personal training thing. I'm like, oh, okay. And then there's one point in time where like him and somebody else were like, they're like quizzing me on stuff. Now, again, my degree is in this. I understand that the physiology of the body. I've trained at a professional level with the NFL for 3 years there. Before that, 4 years in college. Like I've been around the game and I understand things.
Right.
So they're asking me a question. It goes from how would you do this? Okay, how would you do this? To then it goes, well, how would you do this? And so the questions change and the energy change because they're learning from me now. And I go, my boss are learning from me. In a week, I was like, I'm done. And so I let them know, like, hey, man, I'm gonna go open my own gym.
Wow.
And so I was there 7 days. And then on the seventh day, I was like, hey, bro, I appreciate it, but I'm out of here.
Yeah.
I took the money I got from the NFL and I opened my own gym. And a lot of ups and downs there. I mean, 9 months later, I was looking at bankruptcy. From that moment, 9 months later, I was looking at bankruptcy because I did it all the wrong way. Didn't go bankrupt, thankfully, figured it out. But like, it's been a journey of the ups and downs, but I could navigate it. In fact, at one point when I was getting served with like the landlord, like, hey, eviction type stuff, my wife and my best friend were like, bro, close this. Just take the bankruptcy, get a job. My wife, like, just get a job. And I was like, I can't. I'm not built like, I don't know what quitting looks like. I couldn't do it. And 2 weeks later, sure enough, figured it out. Ended up like buying a new car at the end of the year and ended up selling the gym in 2018 and I moved to a couple of different cool locations. Like I figured it out.
Wow.
Whereas the normal human being that I know, there was not like this, you could figure it out mentality. So I've been battling this, even my speaking career now.
Yeah.
Imagine they first said that, and this would be two people that are tight to my life. They're first like, just chalk it up, get a job. Then I start building this business. I do well in it. And I go, you know what? I want to stop doing this altogether. I want to do no more fitness. This is after 6 years of this. I want to speak for a living. They're like, no, like, don't do that.
Yeah.
That's not a job you can do. Like, that's not real. And sure enough, now I get brought in to speak in front of like 10,000 people and get paid $25,000 plus per keynote. And at the time, it was like this thought of maybe, and even they were like, that's not real. You're not going to be successful at doing that. And so I've always looked at things, and I haven't had like this gritty, it's not like I can do it because you told me not to. It's never been that. It's, I want to see what that's like. I wonder if I can get great at that. And it goes back to my years at football when I was like, I'm not good at football, but I want to be good at football. Let me figure it out. And so I do it with like this curious, inquisitive, kind of mini joy to it, to be quite honest. So I'm trying these things out and it's all just a game. Like if you think about it, it's all just a game we're playing. And everybody looks at it like it's this crazy, it's life. So it has some dire straits and situations, but realistically, there are so many solutions to a few problems that if you just seek to find it, like really seek to find it, not say you did while waiting for it to fall apart, but I proactively sought solutions. This is gonna get fixed. I'm gonna figure it out. And I think that's where I may vary and be different, but that again comes from sports because when I'm on that field and it's fourth quarter and it's a fourth down and they're trying to go into the end zone and if they get it, they win. There's no space for me to go like, I'm gonna make it look like I tried real hard in this play. No. I am trying to make sure you don't score.
Right.
There's no other thought even present in my head. So I made plays. I'm getting sacks. I'm getting picks. I'm doing these things because in my head I go, you're not going to score at us. Like so it's a game.
Yeah.
So for me it's the same way. So I may have had that game and I'm playing it that day like that, but the next day it's fine. I figured it out. Right. I just look at it every day as like I'm playing the game. Let's keep playing the game, and the more I play it, the better I get at it. And the more levels I get to raise, I get to play higher levels of the game, but it's still a game, man. And yeah, it's just it's an interesting flow when people look at it because they look at it like this box, like this square box of this is what's, it's not that. It's a fluid, ever moving change. It's more like, ever seen the movie Inception?
parts of it, I think.
Where like the world is adjusting and changing, right? That's what this thing is, in my opinion. It's this ever-flowing, changing game, and there's so much we don't know. So nothing's ever too finite for me. I just like going with the flow and figuring out what it is and seeing how I match up against life.
Wow. Well said. Wow. Okay. So after the gym experience and you were able to pivot, you were able to adjust when things got difficult. I do want to get into all your offerings today. And you said, oh, well, I want to become a speaking coach or have a speaking business. Is that where it started? Because you got a number of different offerings going on. You've written books, right? Yeah. We've got Dark Work, which we'll talk about. You've got your podcasts. But it sounds like the core of this was a speaking business.
It was. It began with speaking. And then it was also like coaching. So think about it this way. At Current, I have a brand that is called Dark Work. I deliver the concept of dark work through speeches, coaching, consulting. That's one business.
It all ties together.
These are all like, it's all the same thing. It's just like, hey, here's dark work. How do you want to engage and embrace it? You want to have me on your stage? Work with me one-on-one? Have me come teach your leadership? It's the same thing though, right? It's just doing dark work, but it's my own brand, one machine, right? Then I have another company that teaches you called Speak to Freedom, how to build this kind of business. So this business this teaches somebody else how to run that business, but it's its own business. Those are the only two things I do. The beginning of my whole career was like, I'm just going to talk and tell my story. And that's how I made my money. Just speak and teach and talk. And then eventually I would teach on personal development. It's called the Shift Method. Identity Shift was like, first was Trust Your Hustle, then became Identity Shift, which is the book. And then, right. Eventually it's now Dark Work, and it'll be that for till I die. And I finally found the message. That's our message. But that was that kind of silo. And then I would teach people some of the coaching business stuff. They go, how do you build a coaching business? How do you build a consulting business? And I would kind of start there and build. But to be honest, the way I was doing it was from stage. I would go on a stage, I'd deliver my thing, and I would have people go, I want to work with you, or a company go, can you come and teach our company or our leadership team? Let's do that. And so I was always teaching the other side of like, here's how to make a funnel and how to do pages. Right? So I was the thing, but I'm not unique in the world of that. There's so many people that do it better than me, right? But I go, what do I do that no one else does? And I asked my clients, I said, where'd you guys all find me? 95% have saw me speak on stage. So I go, why don't I just do that, right? So, and I don't teach how to be great on stage. I teach how to be great at getting onto stage.
Okay.
My business for speaking, I had to figure out how to get on more stages to make my living. I learned systems for that, developed systems and processes that put me in front of these amazing companies and built the message, all the foundational stuff a company that you're building needs you to have for speaking, not just the skill set. Like I can teach you when you build the business how to be incredibly confident on stage and get great on stage. You get repetitions, you know what you're talking about. That's all in how you've built the business. So for me, I had to figure how that thing works. And I go, hey, instead of going like to teach people coaching, why don't I teach people how the speaking thing works for me? How my actual business is run from speaking to coaching to consulting. So I started that business called Speak to Freedom. So I was already doing this, still do this. I was speaking just yesterday, right? Yeah. So I'm still doing this full bore with a separate company teaching you how I do this every day. And it's sound, it's foundational. It's not me just motivating you. It's like, here's stage 1, stage 2, and build it all the way through. And so that's kind of how it blossomed into what it is now, is me developing this, and then in time developing a system that was learnable by us. It's pretty much saying, here's what I'm already doing. Let me make this a curriculum over here. So I just extracted it out. So now you have 2 synergistic businesses. Because on one side, I can literally talk to people and go, I'm a speaker, but I coach speakers. Like I have 250 other speakers that I'm working with and teaching how to do this thing here. Right. And then I can do well on this side because I go, look, I'm not a guy that used to speak. I do this now. I just left Amazon last week and then Google last week. Like this is where I was at. So if you want to learn how to do this systematically, I have a process that I'm still doing. And so those two have kind of worked well together, and that they over the years have become what they are. But I will do nothing else till I retire. I will build Speak to Freedom and Dark Work, and that will be all I do. There's enough within them, I promise you. Yeah. To be busy for a lifetime.
Wow. Okay, so I want to ask you about the speaking coaching, because this was something that really stood out to me when I was first learning about what you do.
Yeah.
And I mean, the way you just described how you got into that, it sounded like you had the core or the basis of getting into this set with your personal story, your testimony, right?
Yes and no. It gave me a foundation, but there were still stages there's like 9 steps that we've created that are all businesses have to have for speaking. But those, yes, they were born of my story, yes. But I had to build these things through trial and error.
Okay. So, right. And of course, refining your skills as a speaker and learning how to do it and be effective and get yourself opportunities. Like, I'm sure that is all stuff that you learned along the way and learned to teach others.
Yeah, all of it, developed, all of it.
Right. But I'm more curious about your clients who want to get on stage, who want to, figure out what their message is or what their go-to thing is. That's what I'm curious about.
Yeah.
Do you have a structure that you give to them or that you put into place to figure out what that is if they're not quite sure?
100%.
And I'll just like take me, for example. Like, I started this podcast about entrepreneurship without really ever having been a true entrepreneur. And so did I struggle with imposter syndrome? Yes. Right. So my way around that was to learn from other people across from me. And after a year of doing episodes every single week, I learned a ton and I've got some stuff to share. And I also have my life experience as well.
Yeah.
And so I feel like I have some stuff to talk about, but still figuring out what is that go-to message that's maybe beyond just the classic, kind of burnt out, get out of the corporate world and start your own business, right?
Yeah.
I don't want to just do that like all these other people out there.
And that's not from people don't want to know about that. They want to know where you want to go. So
exactly,
you'd be better off finding a message that naturally would remove them from that because they're going to this place. So it could be like, it could be like the $1 million former exec. Like, I'm just making something up, right? So the idea is like, that's the promise. I want to be $1 million former exec. That's the promised destination, as opposed to saying, leave your career and go build a better business. Because that's focusing on the problem. People have to focus on the promise. And then what you would do in your world is you'd have to find a way to look at what you have had in life as golden thread that's been present uniquely to you across these different areas. Things that you wouldn't even see about yourself. There's a statement I love. It says, it's hard to see the label when you're inside the jar. There's a way that you function. I don't know it. I don't know you well enough to know what it is, right? But I guarantee there's someone in your life that can point something out that will match other people and what they would say. And I've probably seen some things that if I heard that, I go, oh yeah, he probably does do that, right? And you would go, I had no idea that, I guess I do that. And then now you have something that you can naturally talk to without even having to try, because it's who you are, but you finally pulled it out and put it on display for the world to see. And then now everything you've experienced sits underneath that. So when I say dark work, it's because I did dark work when I was in high school to get better at football, in college to earn a job, in the NFL to get a spot, after the NFL to be able to build a business, to fix my marriage after I was divorced and got remarried to my ex-wife. Like, these little things, there are pockets where I had to tuck away from the world on my solo journey and do this work in the dark. But that's why I shine differently in the light. That's my golden thread. Now, that's a promise though, because when I go to you, dark work is to help you optimize your identity for peak performance. That's really what it is. How do I help you optimize who you are as a human to perform at your peak? That's the promise, no matter where you're coming from. And so dark work is what people buy. The story of my life just supports it validly. Like, it allows it to be a one that go, okay, this guy matches the message, right? If you think about it, I could very easily go, hey, dark work, I'm a military guy. I told my buddy before, Johnny, spec ops, like that could be a powerful story for the same exact message. People buy the message. So what you would have to do, and anybody that's listening goes, I want to speak sometime, they don't bring you in because of your story. They bring you in for the value of your message to their audience, and your story can support it. That's what we're looking for. So if I go in and say I'm going to someone else goes, dark work, what was your thing? Oh man, I grew up with a silver spoon. It was amazing. Life was great. Like, that's not your message.
Right.
The message has to match the messenger. And so for you, I would find like, what's the thing that you can look at life and go, man, I've been faced with situations like this that are, where is someone now at that you once were at different levels, and go, I always did this. I've always had this like be a thing I can do. And you could find that, put good language around it. Now you put that into the world. That's your promise. You make a process to deliver on that promise. That's your framework. You can talk to that on stage as a keynote. You can deliver it in one-on-one coaching as a curriculum. You could do it as a consulting one-day, kind of retreat type thing. You do a lot of things with it, but it's all rooted in that message. It's also tied to your story.
And is that essentially the framework that you give out to any client?
Yeah, so we have it's called a Speak to Freedom formula. It's a whole 9-step process, and the reality it's rooted in like the stage you go through. So this is the stage everyone should go through. You want to build a business like this. One is figure out what we call your $1 million message. What's the message that will make you $1 million because it's unique? It should be in a similar topic area, but a different message so you stand out. For a great example, if you think of productivity or delegation, there's a lot, right? But there's some that are like Tim Ferriss, 4-hour work week, right? These are things where if you look at that one language point, like it's a promise, it's powerful, it makes sense. There's also a process behind how to do it. That's what's made him millions of dollars.
Yeah.
It's not just because he has a cool story, right? It's because of this message, his story supports it. So that's the first thing. Then you got to build a process. If your message is a promise, which it should be, or some kind of language around it, there must be a process that can be delivered without you. Something that people can go through with somebody else or can be delivered in a way where it doesn't matter if you as a coach are happy that day or sad that day. Today we do this. Okay, we build through it to get the result you're looking for. Then as a speaker, you could take that and then you pull it apart and take just the top 3 layers of it, the top 3 points, usually what it is, and make a keynote behind it. Now I can deliver amazing stories that land that lesson in a powerful way that gives value to the audience. Beyond that, I then now, in the order we make it, I can create marketing around what that looks like. Most people go, I'm a speaker. Don't worry about that. It's nothing crazy. They go, I'm a speaker. I go, great. Well, what do you talk about? How's it flow? And then they can't tell you the speech, the description, the takeaways. There's no story reel behind it's just that they speak. And so there's no marketing assets to really make them look amazing.
Right.
Once you have that, because you have to have all the stuff I said before to create the proper marketing. Where if you don't know your product, you can't market it. People can market their product without knowing what the heck the product is. It's kind of weird in the speaking world.
Right.
Then from there, now that I have that, what's my marketing cadence? I call it lead flow formula. You got to have some way that you're rhythmically getting leads or into conversations to get booked. And no one knows how to do this for some reason. Nobody does it. I didn't either. I had to learn how the system works. We call it an ABC list. We just kind of run this thing. Then the 6th stage is, now that I got that done, I must set the foundation for my speaking business so that if somebody reaches out, I know how to handle that pre-event like possible booking call. I got one come up on June 11th for a company. I know exactly how it's going to work. So much so that I'm telling you right now, I'm going to get that speech. I have no idea who else they're going to be marketing to or talking to. I just know that I know how my system runs, and I'm like 99% for getting the bookings if you put me on a phone call with someone interested in booking me. Like I know how to flow it, but that's a system. From there, once I get booked, we have this whole process of like evolving into the event itself. So I know exactly what to say, how to flow, right? It's all systematic. Then I go into actually the organic and social flow of it. Do I know how to put social media in place, have a rhythm of what I'm doing, cadence of posting? Then from there, I want to develop the back end. So it's going to be more of like the curriculum, the coaching, and what I call a speech spin system. So when I'm done on a stage, I'm not hoping I get business from the audience. I know I'm getting business from the audience because I know how to work this into my keynote, into the call to action at the end to where you go, I can't wait to get more from this guy. And you do it properly. I'm asking the right questions. You'll then tell me, yeah, I have more stuff for you. And then I get more bookings and a business builds. And that's how everything spins and moves. But this is systematic stuff you built. And then what happens is when it's built, you probably spend 2 hours a week on it. Like the speaking business isn't one where like I'm pounding the pavement, picking up phone calls and selling widgets. You know,
Right.
It's not the same thing. It's can I consistently market? And oftentimes you can hire someone to do the first reach outs, then you can take over. And it's discussions. But you have to build it and you have to work it like a machine. So a lot of people can do a speaking business as a side gig. To be honest, bro, I don't have to do anything besides speaking. If I wanted to just talk, I could talk and then come home and sit on my house and my couch and just hang out. Like that's just how my life could run. I choose to have a business where I teach people how it works. If I removed that business, I'd be chilling all day. I'd coach my clients for the one-on-one stuff or have the clients, I have coaches that coach our dark work experience stuff. I would mess around with apparel stuff and, get but that's all I would do. But I choose to coach speakers because I love doing it. It's fun to see them build something from scratch.
Yeah. Wow. Would you say that's just one of the more rewarding parts of all the things you're working on?
Yeah, dude, it's fun. Because the thing is, I know what it feels like to have that expression of my story cathartically out there and someone stand up and clap for me.
Yeah.
And go, thank you so much for telling us about all this problem, pain, stuff you experienced, and it benefit their life.
Yeah.
I know how it feels. And there's people that have that exact same desire to make that happen, but they don't have the ability of the system or the structure to actually get out and have the opportunity to do it.
Right.
I know guys and girls with amazing stories, but they don't have the business set up to put them in positions to tell the story.
Yeah.
Or in front of the right audience or get paid to do it. Like that's the whole thing is it's one thing to be able to go up there and tell your story and people go, thank you so much. It's a whole different thing because you can do it for free and do that. It's very different when you can go do that and then you have made enough money to come home and explore life, take trips or research stuff, or like I can focus all my time if I wanted to just on like what I want to do for the speaking world, like what I want to create for people or what I want to create for myself, or do I want to redo my keynote? Like I have space to create because I'm not having to work a different job to pay my bills. But that took time to build and it took effort. It took me trial and error. I get people there faster than I ever got there though, because they don't have to go through the same hiccups that I went through, but you have to work it. Like anything else, you have to work it. And once you do, you get the momentum, that becomes a reality. That's why our program is called Speak to Freedom.
Yeah, I see.
Like speak to a life of freedom to do whatever you want to do.
Mm-hmm. No, that makes sense. One thing I wanted to ask though, before the structure part of that, you have a unique story. Mm-hmm. You were a foster kid, you played in the NFL, you have some things that stand out from most everyone, right? Mm-hmm. And so that already gives you a strong advantage of coming to the table with a story.
Yes, with a story, yes.
Right.
Yeah.
So, but what all the clients you have, I'm sure some of them have pretty unique, amazing stories too, but you run into people who they don't really know what their story is and they struggle. And so you help them structure that. You help them figure out what that might be and dig into, pretty intense parts of their lives that might translate
There's
to that.
no way anybody got through life without having a battle, man.
Okay.
And that battle you never did by yourself.
Yeah.
And you're not the only one who's ever battled that battle, right?
Right.
The reason that I said kind of when you said the football and the foster care, those are not the reasons people book me. It's really not. Like I think people assume that you have to have a crazy story to be a great speaker. You don't. You have to have a valuable story to be a great speaker. And so if you have a valuable story and a valuable message, so there's a lot of folks that go out and they speak for free and go, and I can't figure out how to get paid. And I go, well, what do you speak about? And they go, well, when I was a kid, lost me. Now I know why you're not getting paid. They go, what do you mean? I haven't said anything. I go, well, here's the problem. When I asked you, what do you speak about? You went into telling me your story. As someone booking you, I don't care about your story. I need to know immediately what I'm going to benefit from having you on stage. That's where the message comes in. The message is a promise. Mm-hmm. So when I say, what do you speak about? Dark work. What's dark work? It's the work you and your team does in the dark that allows you to win in the light. Oh, really? Can you tell me more? Well, yeah, my whole work is I optimize people's identity for peak performance. You can show up to defining moments with a dominator's identity, which breathes and thinks, I've done too much work in the dark to lose in the light. So when your team goes out into the world after I get on stage, they're going to have a different fire in their belly to accomplish things and to work in the background in the necessary ways so they can succeed and beat the competition and meet your objectives. I have told you nothing about my personal story. You don't know where I came from. You don't know what I've done. Nothing is there. Now they go, well, what's your story? Oh, when I was a kid, when I did this in football. Okay, yeah, now the message matches the messenger. So when people are coming to me going, I have no story, I don't care if you have a story. We got to find your message. And the message is going to be tucked in part of your story, but the message is what's going to benefit a company.
Right.
That's what they really want. Your story has to solidify and back it up. And if it does, if you can deliver it well, now you're valuable out of the gate. So when I get people that I've been speaking for free for 5 years, the first thing we do is go, we got to find a message. The moment I have a guy named Aditya who he's done a lot of tech stuff. He does a lot of people build the wrong things. He says a lot of people build rocket ships and all somebody needs is a bike. So his whole thing was to figure out how do I create this whole thing. He created a whole new message, built it all from scratch. He literally said it recently. He goes, to be honest, in the beginning, I thought I might make $200 from a speech as I just booked my first $9,000 gig.
Wow.
Out of the gates. And the separation is not because he's a better speaker than he was. It's because now the message is one the company goes, oh my gosh, if our people can get this and he can deliver it to them, it's going to help us make so much more on the backside. Save us money too. The message did it, not his story.
Wow, that's valuable. Man, well, thanks for sharing all that and the process you take with coaching and how your perspective on speaking. It's valuable to listen to, especially, me as a somewhat, fresh podcaster.
Yeah.
But what is your next big goal in your career? You talked about I could do these things for the rest of my life. You already said that. But is there something that you have your sight on in the next bit of time?
Sounds crazy, but my goal is to remove myself and make a lot of money. I mean, the thing is that making a lot of money is because I realize that in the world of what I do, you make a lot of money when you give a lot of value. That's how my whole thing works. If I wasn't giving great value, I wouldn't make any income. So I am open and happy to say I want to make as much money as possible, because it also means I want to serve at the highest level possible. I want to give so much good stuff to the world. They go, God, thank you so much. Here's more money, right? But I also want to remove myself, because there's going to be another wave of people coming in. There's always going to be new speakers, new life coming in. And if I try and hang on to like, I got to be the guy type thing, at some point I'm going to have a lot of internal turmoil with the fact that I can't compete, we'll call it, against people that are different, younger, that kind of thing. And so what I want to do is at some point, like, have this beautiful dark work brand that is built, that I'm sure I'll still speak, but I don't got to be the guy. Like, I don't have aspirations to be like a godfather of the industry. I want to be an amazing grandfather to my grandkids and know that I have made enough revenue and consistent income to be able to spend all the time I want with them, to be present where I'm at. Because there's this draw that like you want the world to love you, the fame thing. But I've done this enough, from the NFL to leaving the NFL, knowing like, okay, you're on high and then now nobody cares about you, to this world. Like, I'll do my thing on a stage. People love me, shake your, thank you so much, right? Then I go to the airport and I'm just the guy in seat B2, and there's nothing wrong with that. It's just, I understand that. I'm the guy when I come home.
Yeah.
That's where I want to be. I want to spend time with my wife, with my kids. But I got to facilitate that by serving the rest of the world, so I have the income to give myself that freedom. So I currently still speak to freedom. But I also know this is when I say remove myself from the dark work brand, I believe deeply in what dark work does for people, what the outcome is for their life. And it's not so much that like I need the praise for that. I know that process can serve people. It's been developed that way, like a psychological, neurological way, to where people will be better, period. I don't want to be the reason someone doesn't take advantage of it. And if I am the brand, someone will have to determine whether or not they like or trust me to take part in the brand. If we have different beliefs in political aspects or religious aspects, for whatever reason, that human misses out on something that could be very beneficial for him. I don't want to be that reason. But if I got to be the guy, I'll be the reason. So for me, when you say, what's the future? It's like, I want to build a really cool brand that no one knows I'm behind. Like, think about like when you're going, No Fear. Remember that brand, No Fear?
I think so.
It's a brand that when I was in the 80s, it was like No Fear brand. Like, I don't even know who made it.
Yeah.
Couldn't tell you a single person behind it. Like, and I like that.
Yeah.
Like, I'd have to go Google and find out who made the No Fear brand. There's a person, right?
Yeah.
But I didn't have to like that person to like the message of the brand.
Right. Yeah.
So for me, it's, can I build a brand that has its own personality, own persona, own messaging that the world gets to interact with and get some great benefit from, that I will also benefit from. And I'll slowly fade off happily to the background and watch my kids and watch the next people in the world of this world grow.
Yeah, no, that's brilliant. And I mean, you mentioned it in there, but it perfectly defines speak to freedom. You're literally following that in your aspiration here. And then the points about separating yourself from the brand. And that's a big reason why a lot of people who make it big in some area and then they create a brand, it's important to not link it to your name. Right, so that you can separate that. And I mean, one example that comes up is 75 Hard and Andy Frisella, right? Yeah. That's like a lot of people know 75 Hard, but maybe they don't know Andy, right?
Perfect, yeah.
Yeah, so that's cool. I want to end it with a fun question I ask everybody, and that's, is there an entrepreneurial life hack that goes against the mainstream belief that you would share with the audience? Based
An
off
entrepreneurial life hack?
Yeah. It could be tactical, or it could be a mindset.
Yeah,
anything.
Bro. Set your own damn scale. We live in a world. Here, I'll give an example. I'm in season of dad. I like to be home with my kids. I don't want to be places all the time. In my world of what I do, if I wanted to, I could be on stage probably every day. I could market myself like a madman, be in a plane from here to here to here to here, have my team drumming things up. I could do this. But and a lot of people in my world question why I don't. They're like, why don't you? This is strike when the iron's hot. They know your name and you're getting out here with these companies. And I go, but that's not what my scale desires. My scale desires me to be in season of dad, to be home. And so what happens is, if I borrowed the world's scale, I would go and do that thing. And I would be doing that thing, but not feeling fulfilled. And I would, no matter what I accomplished, it would never be enough. There's billionaires that want more money. Right? There's never enough. And so if I'm seeking the world's scale of what success is, I'll be unfulfilled and I'll chase a demon I'll never catch. And so for me in my entrepreneurial journey, I've realized that I just have to be okay with what I want to be okay with. So I sat back and go, what do I personally want my life to look like? I don't want to live in a mega mansion and, secluded from the world. I want my kids to have a real upbringing, like they live in a regular neighborhood.
Community.
Right? A cool, simple spot. People are safe and happy. I live in a great community. I want to serve my kids and be a coach in their teams. I can do that. I want my wife to know that their husband's around. I want to be here often. I want to have a great relationship with her. I want to support her in what she does. So we run track together. She's way better at what she does, but I could hang out and be, I just drive the RV place if we need to. That's my version of success. And so all entrepreneurs, they hop in and they look at every other entrepreneur and go, man, I got to get a jet like Cardone. Man, I got to have this event like, Tony Robbins does. And I go, that's great. But you can't just take that one piece of their life. You take that one thing, you take full stock their entire life. You have to, because everything they do created that. So if you're willing to take that full stock, all of it, take it. But if not, don't set your scale on somebody else's scale and then try to recreate that because you might not like it. And it's also okay. Like it's okay for you to go, I don't want my life to look like that. I got amazing friends that do amazing things that never want to have kids. And I go, I love you as a human, but I don't want to do what you do in life. Like I love my family. I love being a dad. And it's okay to have the difference. But for me, my hack was when I used to find myself feeling like less than, or like I wasn't at that level. I don't got 1 million followers and I don't have this going on. And I would always question, am I doing the right thing? And then after a while, I stepped back and I am vastly more productive, at peace, and impactful because I'm operating out of my own space. Like people who find me and love what I do, let's do it. And I help them become amazing in what they do. And then the people who don't, like it's okay. And for me, my journey is just, I know that at the end of the day, I come home. And if I'm happy at home and I have the freedom of income and the freedom of time and the freedom to do what I want and still know I'm serving the world properly, some of integrity, dude, I'm smooth. And so life for me is great. That's my hack. I set my own scale. I didn't borrow the world's scale and I live into it every day.
I love that, man. Yeah, thanks for sharing that. Yeah. It just shows a lot of wisdom in your experience so far to be able to speak like that and setting your own scale, not getting away from the comparison, which is the thief.
It'll rob your joy, dog.
Yeah.
Now, there's things I want to accomplish. I want to build a cool brand. There are people that I know that have amazing brands, and I got to find out how to do that. So maybe for certain seasons where I'm not in perfect harmony with my goals, I understand that. But to aspire to that just to aspire to it, it's not useful for me. Yeah. It actually hurts my energy. And when I have that energy, I can't produce great from that dark energy.
For sure. Is there somebody in your network who you would recommend I have on the Nichols and Dimes show? It's someone who's working on something entrepreneurial, who's got an interesting story.
Yeah, man. Johnny Sasser. I think we talked about it before. He's now a buddy, I would say, but he's a client to begin with. He's a former spec ops. He's got some cool stories, man. But he's slowly built a really cool business that takes men into the wild man experience. They're doing some with the women here now too. I think his wife also does a retreat or something they do. But it's been cool watching him build his business and then build his keynote and put it to the world. But he's definitely a human that people should know.
Awesome. Okay, thank you. I'll follow up on getting in touch.
Sounds good.
Cool. Well, Anthony, how can people find you online? What's your social media? If they want to work with you.
Go to @AnthonyTrucks on Instagram, or pretty soon Dark Work, depending on when this comes out, darkwork.com. You'll see all the stuff we do there.
Awesome.
Cool.
Well, Anthony, thanks so much, man. This is an awesome conversation. A lot of good value in there. A lot of things that people can take and apply right off the bat to whatever they might be working on, some sort of entrepreneurial project or whatever it is, even in their jobs.
Yeah.
So awesome to meet you, man. And
you
thanks
too.
So much for being on the show.
Welcome, man. Appreciate you.
All right.
Cool.
Bye, everybody. Thanks for joining me for this episode of the Nichols and Dimes Show. Please hit the subscribe button on YouTube and follow my Instagram page @NicholsandDimes. The podcast Instagram page is @Nichols and Dimes Show. And please like any of the videos you come across on either platform and leave a comment, leave feedback. It helps me to improve and innovate and to continue to scale and bring more interesting guests to the Nichols and Dimes Show. Thank you all for the support, and we'll see you next time.